Hello, family. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. And I have an issue that has been burning in my mind for some time now, only because of I've been paying very close attention to what I've been watching in the news. So, what I wanted to discuss with the family today was I wanted to ask a question and perhaps give you my take on the way I see it. I will say this from the outset is that the answers that I'm going to give and some of the recommendations that I'm going to provide are not medical advice, and they are only my opinion. That's all they are. They're just my opinion. And so all I'm suggesting is that this is the way I see or interpret what I'm seeing. That's all I'm saying. So the question that I'm posing to you, family, today is, does COVID-19 disproportionately affect African Americans more? Does COVID-19 disproportionately affect African Americans more? That's my question. I have six major reasons why I think that it does. I will say also that I'm not trying to espouse or suggest some sort of conspiracy against the Black community, either here in North America or the Black community worldwide. This is just what I am seeing based upon what I am observing in the culture right now. The first reason I think it affects us more is primarily due to the fact that all viruses, that be uh, all of the seven that I've lived through, and now this is the eighth one. I think it's MERS, SARS, influenza, Zika, H1N1, HIV, Ebola, and now COVID-19. Okay, that's number eight. All viruses are pre-programmed, designed, or coded. And most of the viruses that I've listed, including the one that I've just gave you, are man-made. Many of them are created in the lab. And if you check any of them on your cell phone, you can find that there are individuals that own the patents on many of these viruses. That's just an aside, though. My point is that many of these viruses are coded for particular. Um, I don't necessarily want to say a particular group, but they are coded, in fact, for particular behavior of a group and or the the deficiencies of a group. That's more to the point. For instance, I'll give you an example. Uh, COVID-19 seems to focus or seems to be coded primarily to the elderly population, 65 and up, and primarily that's due to the fact that our B cells are responsible for making the immune system in our body. The killer cells, the lymphocytes, and the antibodies that the immune system uses to eat up viruses in the body. Now, if you don't have those, which a lot of older people don't do because the B cells are created not only in the immune system, which 75% of the immune system is in the gut, but also it's also in the spleen, it's in the lymph nodes, it's in the lymphatic system in general, right? And so that particular system produces B cells. And without going into too much detail, as seniors get older, they create a lot of scar tissue in the lymphatics, not in the lymphatic system, but they start having problems in their bones because also B cells are made in bone marrow primarily. And as they start losing more bone marrow and it starts to scar in the bone marrow, then the B cells are they're not there. And then as a result, now they're open for anything that's in the air and it's easy for them to die. So that's why many of the older people and HIV, most of us know, we kind of think it's a homosexual disease, but really what it is, it's a disease for individuals who are highly promiscuous, or I guess another term would be people who are polyamorous and don't use a lot of protection. So I can go on and on and on and on and on with some of these, how these viruses are coded. That's number one. Number two, um, we lack an understanding of, um, I say, epigenetics and genetics. Most of the medicine, I would say, conventional medicine in America is based on the genetic model, meaning that they suggest or believe that all chronic diseases start at the genetic level. And the reason why we're experiencing diseases, chronic diseases that we see every day, is because it's a genetic deficiency. We were born with it. Whereas epigenetic, which is what I prescribe, which is what I believe, is is a term. Epi means above, and genetics above genetics. All that simply suggests is that the external world, what's outside of the world, it has an effect on gene expression. Meaning that what if you're stressed out, your genes are going to express themselves differently. Okay, rather than you being born with something that that has deformed your genetics or your genes. It's a total different concept. So that's number two. Number three, we don't understand the concept of we are not what we eat, we are what we absorb. We are not what we eat, we are what we absorb. Meaning, it is true we cannot eat just anything, but whatever we do eat, if we're not absorbing the vitamins, minerals, and essential nutrients, then guess what? It doesn't matter what we eat because we're not going to get the genetic material that we need and the building blocks that we need, which are vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids. I guess you say fats, proteins, and carbs, which are the macronutrients and the micronutrients. We're not going to get what we require in order to give our body the essential nutrients to do the building blocks of keeping us alive and maintaining our homeostasis, meaning keeping us balanced, neutral, and keeping us balanced. All right. Uh, number number three, we suffer from underlying chronic diseases. The chronic diseases that Black people suffer from are most people are more than aware of. We suffer from a disproportionate number of people in our community are obese or mal or experiencing. When you see an obese person, that person is really experiencing malnutrition. Number two, you see a lot of high blood pressure, and that's basically the pathway in which the the, the current virus is entering our body. Is coming in once it gets into our system, but it uses the ACE, which I'm not going to go into no detail on it, but that's a pathway in the body. These are ACE enzymes that you see in the lung area and the heart area, and the virus likes to enter in. Once it gets into that ACE enzyme, then what it does, it starts to replicate itself. And when it bursts out, it causes what's called a cytosine storm. And a lot of inflammation is what it does. And that's how it ends up creating a lot of fluid in the lungs. And then you end up dying because your lungs cannot expand and contract, expand and contract. And then you have to be intubated. And if you don't get what you need early on, then you end up dying. That's how it works. All right. We have a lot of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is an enlarged heart. We have a lot of that going on. That's where you see these kids who are dying, playing football. Um, you see these sudden infant deaths. That's hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. The next one is diabetes. Normally, people who have a lot of diabetes, they experience a lot of problems with, they don't produce a lot of killer cells. They, diabetes has a way of suppressing the immune system. And I think diabetes, obesity. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. And number four would be a lack of proper eating habits. A lack of proper eating habits. All right. We eat in our community and in America in general, we eat too much carbs in our body, just entirely too many carbs. And it causes a lot of problems because it produces so much insulin to try to keep the sugar load down. And we eat too much sugar as well. So on top of the carbs, turning into sugar, and then on top of drinking and eating a lot of sugar, all that unfortunately causes it's a perfect environment for this particular virus because it again suppresses the immune system. That's what the sugar does, as well as what the insulin does. All right, and of course the insulin does a really good job of reducing your the killer cells in your body. All right, number five, a lack of a lack of coherent and non-biased medical advice. In America, sadly, we don't get a lot of good advice because our system is, we don't have really technically a healthcare system. What we actually have a system that's based upon, it's a symptomatic system. It's not based on solving anything. We just have a system that's based upon alleviating the symptoms, and that's it. It's almost like a mechanic situation. You bring a car in, and you know, maybe you're having a problem and you're driving along and you just notice on your dashboard, oh wow, my little idiot light just came on. I got a problem. My engine light just came on. So you take it in, and instead of the mechanic fixing the actual cause for why the engine light came on, what he does is he fixes the symptom of the engine light. So he goes, lifts up your hood, he tells you to cut the engine off. He removes the black cable off of your battery, counts to 5, puts the cable back on. He tells you go ahead and start the engine, and you notice the engine light is gone. He fixed the symptom, but never addressed the cause. And that's what we have. And that's, if that's the way we handled our cars all the time, we would chronically be dealing with issues. Our cars would always have issues. All right. I believe that was number 5. And lastly, we have an issue with the way they're dealing with this particular pandemic. Medicare, Medicaid, what they do, unfortunately, when you have medicine and money uh, coming together, colliding, this is when you run into real issues. Now, in our system, based upon my understanding, if someone can find something that's a little different, I'd be more than willing to check that out. Help me out. Look in the give me some information in the comments on this. But based on what I know now is, I got this information from a doctor. He says if he if a patient comes into his office and he diagnosed that patient has COVID-19, then that doctor from Medicaid will receive $13,000. But if he takes that same patient and he admits that patient into the hospital for COVID-19, he gets $39,000. So it almost incentivizes the the medical community to um, to diagnose people with COVID-19. All right. Lack of coherent and non-biased medical advice, and that's just ridiculous as far as I can tell. Now, as I was suggesting, um, those I think I did one, two, three, four, five. That was six. My six major reasons. My recommendations, based upon what I'm saying, is that um, what we need to do is, you know, you need to find out what's actually working. If you have anyone in your family that's elderly or even have a very poor eating habits, what you need to find out is if they come down with this, you need to get them uh, some things, you need to get them some medicines that are working. And based upon the results that I've been hearing and reading about HCQ, which is hydroxychloroquine, and they want to get rid of me off of this thing, and they want to monetize it. I don't care. The main thing is to give you guys the information. But HCQ or hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc, all three of those together. Early, as soon as the signs hit, you need to get that done. You need to tell the docs that's what you want. All right. I'm finding out that they just came out with remdesivir. That's a new drug, but that thing is like $1,000 a pill. When you can get the ACQ for like 67 cent a pill, and we already know it's working, right? And it's been around over 20 years. Okay. Now, stuff that you can get to try to help prevent the situation, you can get D3, vitamin D3. Black folks have a problem with vitamin D3 because of our melanin in our skin. We have to stay in the sun 4 times as much, 4 to 6 times as much as other people, because the melanin blocks the ultraviolet rays that we need in order to help produce the vitamin D3. But the vitamin D3 inhibits the inflammation that causes the cytokine problems with this virus. So if you can get the vitamin D3 in your body, that's going to help you, because it also does something else. It upregulates, I'm not going to give you the term, but it upregulates, I guess I have to give you the term. It's called chitosins or cathecins. And what those are killer cells that goes out and starts killing viruses, bacteria, and fungi. All right, the next one is melatonin. Melatonin, of all things, inhibits pro-inflammation. In other words, it stops the development of inflammation in the body. And of course, selenium. Selenium is a trace mineral, very small trace mineral, but that helps people who have problems with that hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, that enlarged heart. That's what my dad died of. So if you're worried about, now, most of the baby formulas right now, if you look on them, it already has selenium in it. So you don't have to worry about your babies. But if you got older children, older people, you might want to go buy selenium. It's pretty cheap, but it helps with inflammation. But more importantly, it helps with that oversized heart. And so that keeps you from experiencing some of the problems that people might experience with this particular virus. All right, number 2, you want to reduce your carb load. You're going to have to reduce your carb load. All that wheat, rye, oats, corn, all those things that cause insulin levels to spike, causes problems. with the sugar levels increasing in the body, and that suppresses the immune system. Number three, you want to reduce your sugar load. Obviously, that's your sodas, that's your apple juices, that's anything that produces a lot of sugar in the body. You want to reduce that because, again, it suppresses the immune system. And number four, you just want to eat healthy. You just want to eat healthy. Try to eat more vegetables, fruits. Um, if you want to eat any grains, the only grains you want to eat is wild rice, brown rice, um, potatoes, things of that sort, mostly sweet potatoes, um, and fish and chicken and beef, as long as it's not grain fed. That's the main thing. And last but not least, you want to find a healthy environment. You want to find a healthy environment. Stress causes cortisol, which cortisol does the same thing. It creates havoc on the immune system. And all of that creates problems with absorbing the nutrients that your body requires. So that's epigenetics. That's outside of your genetics in your body, but it does cause your genetics to express themselves in a deficient way if you're experiencing the issues of stress, anxiety, those kinds of things. So if you have friends who are toxic, if you have family members who are toxic, if you have a relationship that's toxic, what you want to do is going to create a whole lot of stress on your body, and it's going to change your gene expression, and it's going to create a great environment for deficiency, which is going to create a great environment for illness and perhaps chronic disease. I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys learned a little bit and stay healthy. That's my time. I thank you for yours. I catch you on the other side. God bless. Please subscribe. Thank you.